Rick, has the Steelers' Super Bowl window closed?
Yes, it has, Joy. I'm sorry to deliver that news. I know how you feel about the Steelers, but the reality is not only has it closed, but it closed 2 or 3 years ago, if we're going to be honest about it. But now that they are having to replace Ben Roethlisberger, and they're doing it with a defense that was ranked 22nd. The offense was ranked 21st. There's a lot of work to be done on this team to get it back to even, I would say, competing for a division title because of where the Bengals are and where the Ravens are. But if we're talking about Super Bowl, the reality is they haven't been there for a number of years. They will always be competitive because I would imagine that Mike Tomlin isn't going anywhere, and Mike Tomlin is the reason that they've been as good as they've been, regardless of whatever has happened. I mean, this is a man who went 8-6 with Mason Rudolph and Devlin Hodges. So his ability to take something and take nothing and make something out of it has been proven without a question. But if we're talking about actually being a Super Bowl contender, I don't know that I could say that they've been that for, going back to when they were 13-3 a couple of years ago.
No, the window hasn't closed for all the reasons that you just mentioned. And the number one reason is Mike Tomlin. Because they are always competitive and will always be competitive because they are a highly functional organization who does not fire coaches and does not panic. And Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season in 15 seasons. And while he may be humble and downplay that and talk about what the standard is in Pittsburgh, which is championships, that is a major factor in rebooting. Because he is so consistent, because the Steelers are consistently competitive, I can't anticipate that they're going to go off of a cliff. So when they rebuild, which they're going to have to reboot without Ben Roethlisberger next year and make some moves, they're not climbing up from the bottom of the trenches of the NFL. It's much easier to go from being competitive to being a contender when you're consistently competitive and functional. And that's what Mike Tomlin is. Also, while the defense isn't at the top of the league this year, he has had a top 6 in NFL in total defense in 10 of his 15 seasons. They have 50-plus sacks in 5 straight seasons. And he's young still. He's right in the middle of he's 49 years old, of what NFL coaches are. So it's not like he's reaching the end of his career, even though he's been coaching in the NFL for 15 years. So Mike Tomlin is the reason why their Super Bowl window is still open. Did it close with Ben Roethlisberger? Yeah, I think a couple years ago. I agree with you, Rick. I think they've definitely had some seasons where they've underachieved considering the amount of talent that they've had over the last 10 years. But it's hard to win championships, and they would know because they have a lot of them. So I have faith in Mike Tomlin that he will get them back to where they need to be. Obviously, they need to be very aggressive about replacing Ben Roethlisberger, but because of his long resume of success and sustained success, they don't have that much that they have to do to get back to being a contender.
Oh, I love that. I love that from Joy. Loving eyes never can see. Joy, it's over. It's all done. It's all done. The Super Bowl window is done. It'll be a while before they can get there. You can look up and revel in the success of Joey Burrow and those guys in Cincinnati because they'll be at the top for a minute. And if it's not them, then it's the Baltimore Ravens. But it'll be a while before we can see the Steelers get back. And part of it is due to they need a quarterback. Who is going to be the quarterback that brings them back? Is it Mason Rudolph? Is it Dwayne Haskins? Is it a draft pick? We talk about it all the time. It's a quarterback-driven league, and you need to have a quarterback to compete at the highest level. Sure, their defense to get them in the mix and keep them competitive. The running game with Najee Harris can reemerge. They can play a different style with a different quarterback. But until they get a blue-chip quarterback in the building, they will not have an opportunity to compete for Super Bowls. I give Mike Tomlin credit because, man, he has been able to make miracles happen in Pittsburgh at times, whether the injuries on defense, when he didn't have a quarterback, he had Duck Hodges playing. He has been able to get them to being a competitive team. But there is a difference, and it's hard to go from good to great in this league when you don't have a quarterback. Until we know who the Pittsburgh Steelers have as a quarterback, there is no way that we can say that their Super Bowl window is open. Until then, Joy, you have to rest with those memories of Super Bowls past because it'll be a minute before they get another one.
Bucky, you put that so nicely. You were so gentle with Joy in laying that out.
Positive me.
That was very nice. Here's the issue, and you nailed it when it comes to the quarterback situation. The Pittsburgh Steelers don't have one. They don't know where they're going to get their next one. But it's worse because if I look at the AFC, the best young quarterbacks are in the AFC, and they've got to win the AFC in order to have Super Bowl ideas. So Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, all of these guys are just at the beginning. All those teams have the most important piece that they could possibly need to have in order to contend for a Super Bowl title, in order to think about winning the AFC. And the Pittsburgh Steelers simply aren't there. They need to find that guy, and then they need to do some restructuring as far as the rest of the team is concerned. They've got some nice pieces, and there's no doubt that Mike Tomlin is going to make the most of them. But there's a difference between being competitive and being a Super Bowl contender. I believe that the Steelers will always be competitive. They'll always be a tough out. But are they Super Bowl worthy? They haven't been since the Kansas City Chiefs began their run, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
You mentioned it's hard to go from good to great. You know what's harder to do? Go from bad to great. And in the AFC North, we've seen two teams for a very long time be bad, in Cincinnati and in Cleveland. And I couldn't hear enough at the beginning of the season about how the Cleveland Browns are Super Bowl contenders. We need to take them seriously. I love Joe Burrow, but I know neither one of you actually think that the Bengals are Super Bowl contenders right now. They're still rebuilding, and Zach Taylor is not the coach that Mike Tomlin is. So when I'm looking at what the Steelers have at their core, they have a Hall of Fame head coach that's not going anywhere, who's never had a losing season and has been to 2 Super Bowls and won one. So he knows what it takes to get there. He's going to reboot and have this defense running at the highest level very soon. They're not in a complete rebuild. I'm with you that they need a quarterback. I'm upset that they don't have a succession plan for Ben Roethlisberger. They had the opportunity to see what they needed when Ben was out, and they had Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph, and they didn't do anything. I agree with you there. But what happens if, and this is a fantasy, but there has been some conversation about it. I'm not counting on this in any way. But what happens if Aaron Rodgers comes to the Steelers because he wants a new challenge next year? Is the Super Bowl window back open? I think that it might be. So if they get the right quarterback in there, and there's a lot of quarterback talent out there coming into the league every single year, there's no reason why they wouldn't trade up and get someone. There's a lot of movement with quarterbacks now these days. We've seen it. Tom Brady is in Tampa Bay. Aaron Rodgers is flirting with Mike Tomlin. He's talked about what he doesn't. We don't know what he's going to do. I'm not counting on that situation, but I'm just saying I feel much better about a possible Super Bowl in the future with the Steelers, with a coach like Mike Tomlin that's never had a losing season and has been to 2 Super Bowls, and an organization that has won 6 Super Bowls, than I would dealing with a rookie quarterback with a traditionally dysfunctional organization.
Well, look, I can agree with you with the stability and the consistency of the Steelers, giving you an opportunity to remain competitive and maybe even a viable dark horse contender. That said, the turnarounds that you spoke to, even in that division, were driven by the quarterback. Joe Burrow has played at an MVP level where you can talk about him being an MVP based on how the Bengals have risen up. We can talk about Lamar Jackson. He won the MVP when Baltimore took over. Baker Mayfield is the outlier, the anomaly, but the team around him was so talented that they vaulted to the top. And so when I look at the Steelers are talented, but they're not quite an A-level talent team, meaning they still have some deficiencies and holes throughout their roster. And without a blue chip quarterback in place to maybe erase some of those issues or mask some of those flaws, they won't be able to do it. And so we can talk about Aaron Rodgers coming, or maybe Deshaun Watson comes, or maybe Russell Wilson drops out of the sky and lands at Heinz Field. I just don't know how we can predict or say that any of those guys are going to land in Pittsburgh when Pittsburgh traditionally hasn't done business like that. This is a homegrown franchise and organization that believes in drafting and developing. And so if we're looking at the draft, I don't see a guy coming in there and changing the fortunes of the Steelers. It may be a minute. You may have to hang around that 500 line for a minute, Joy. It may be a while before they become a good and great team.
Bucky, you're still being too nice. Joy and I have done the show together all week, so I can say it directly. To answer your question, Joy, no, there is not a quarterback that they can get that is going to make them Super Bowl contenders next season.
If Aaron Rodgers goes there, they're not Super Bowl contenders. Come on, you don't even believe it. You don't even believe that, Rick. Rick, you do not believe that. I know you don't want to put that on tape. You do not believe that.
I don't believe Aaron Rodgers is going to Pittsburgh.
Okay, but you can't say there's not a quarterback that doesn't make them Super Bowl contenders.
Okay,
Aaron Rodgers
now we're in Dumber and Dumber, so you're telling me there's a chance.
Yes, I'm telling you there's a chance.